Hi everyone, Martin here. So I've decided to upload something different today. I recently bought a game called Samurai Shodown. Now, I've heard of the Samurai Shodown franchise. It goes all the way back to the 90s. It's about as old as Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter 2 or Fatal Fury or some of the other classic fighting games. And Samurai Shodown is one of those classic fighting game franchises. It has a long history and a loyal fan base. Unfortunately, I have never counted myself as part of that fan base. I have never played a Samurai Shodown game. I recognize exactly 2 characters from this series who appeared in crossover games outside of this franchise, whether it's Capcom vs. SNK or King of Fighters. I'm extremely unfamiliar with the game's lore and narrative. I didn't even watch gameplay of this game before I bought it, but I knew it was coming out and I decided to get it to do a review or an impressions video or whatever for my channel to shake things up a bit. So without further ado, let's get into it. So when you press start and enter the game, you come across a menu screen that, in my opinion, looks pretty cool. It has a character in the background. As you scroll through the menu, you come across the different options. There's the story mode, which is it's basically a standard arcade ladder that starts with a specific introduction to the character you chose, and you fight a series of battles leading up to a rival fight. Each character apparently has a rival that counts as a sub-boss, and then you fight the big boss, who I'll get to in a little bit. So as far as the gameplay goes, like I said, I've never played a Samurai Shodown game before, but I'm familiar enough with fighting games in general, and I have a history of some SNK games in my past, so I wasn't completely a fish out of water, but I felt a little uncomfortable on my first playthrough. It plays pretty similarly to Street Fighter as far as input commands. Your slash buttons are divided into the 3 different types. There's light slash, medium slash, and heavy slash. On the PlayStation 4, it's square, triangle, circle in the default settings. And then you have your X button as a kick command, and your trigger buttons, your L1, R1, L2, R2, are basically those buttons if they press together. So if the command says medium plus heavy slash, then you would press whatever the button command is for that in order to execute that move. So I'm kind of just a casual fighting game player, even though I do have a YouTube channel. I'm especially a casual Samurai Shodown player. Like I said before, I don't have any history with this particular franchise. So basically this impressions or review video is from the eyes of someone who plays this game casually, who has no history, and I just want to share my experience. Samurai Shodown is a lot more tactical game than something like Mortal Kombat or some of the older crossover games like Marvel vs. Capcom. Yes, they are tactical in a way, but you can pretty much button mash in those games and kind of do okay until you face a higher level opponent. In this game, you have to be very deliberate with what you're doing. So if you do one of your special attacks, say fireball forward or down toward slash, or any of the slash buttons, you'll execute a move and you have to commit to it fully. Every move that happens in this game is pretty much unsafe. What that means to those who don't really follow fighting games, it means that if your opponent blocks it, then they will most definitely counter into a very devastating attack of their own, and there's no way for you to stop that counter. So you have to be pretty deliberate. You have to make sure you know your character and you know what you're doing. As far as other fighting games that are similar to this, the button inputs and everything is similar across pretty much every fighting game, including King of Fighters, which is another SNK property, or Street Fighter, or even Mortal Kombat. It's a little bit different than any other games that I've really played with, but it's similar enough to the previous games I've talked about so that I have some grasp of what I'm doing. I mean, you're probably watching this right now and I'm losing horribly, but that's part of the learning curve. There is a learning curve to this game. You have to really time your attacks right. You have to block. Overall, I'd say the gameplay, when I first played it, it was kind of a culture shock, comparing it to Mortal Kombat, which is my main fighting game franchise. Once I started playing it more, once I got more familiar and more comfortable with how you're supposed to play the game, I enjoyed the gameplay. It's pretty good. It's fun. There's some very satisfying moments. Much like Mortal Kombat, there is blood and dismemberment, but there's an option in the settings where you can turn all of those off. So overall, I'd say the gameplay is pretty fun. I'm still getting used to it. I've only really played it for a couple of hours. Now on to graphics. So I head into Samurai Shodown, and I notice the graphics are an improvement from King of Fighters 14. The character models look great, the art style, the character introductions in the story, the cutscenes, an art-based style. Kind of like a comic book or a manga if you're into that. You notice that as you're playing, this is a really cool touch by SNK in this game. You can notice some blood spatter on your character's costumes. It fits the art style, and you can definitely tell you've been in a battle by the end of it. One thing I'd like to note, the stages, comparing that to King of Fighters 14, the stages do look better. Some of them look just kind of okay, just kind of decent. There's one stage in particular, though, that just is breathtaking. I love fighting on that stage. I'll show it right now. So considering the overall size of the studio, I think SNK did a good job on the graphics. But this game isn't without some gripes. The first thing that I noticed, the roster is really small. One of my core values in fighting games is a decently sized roster. You can compare it to King of Fighters 14, for example, and they have over 40. And if you include the DLC, I think it goes over 50 characters to choose from. And I think that's amazing. Mortal Kombat 11 has 25 at launch, with DLC coming later. This game has 16 fighters at launch, and it's kind of disappointing for me. I really like a diverse roster, a large diverse roster, that I can really choose who I want to play with and see some variety on the fighter select screen. It makes this game feel a little bit outdated. There are a number of different games that came out in the 90s that had the same size roster or even bigger, and it's just something to consider. There's quite a bit of loading, and the loading screens are actually pretty long. So I guess that's something that will be patched later. Another issue I have with this game, and it's probably more because of me than the game itself, but I said there was a final boss at the end of the story mode. She's kind of cheap. I'll put some gameplay up there right now to show you, but at the time of this recording, I have not beat the story mode with any of the characters. I didn't really enjoy the final boss fight, although going back to one of the positives, that stage is also one that looks amazing, and the background music that plays during it is amazing as well. At the very least, I have something pretty to look at when I'm getting my butt kicked by some sort of weird demon lady. So overall, the game is fun for what it is. I would say for me, though, I would not get this game immediately. This game launched at $60, a full price retail, and in my opinion isn't really worth the $60. If this game launched at $40 or $30, then I'd say definitely, if you're a fighting game fan, pick it up, play it, have fun with it, and you wouldn't feel bad about spending your money on it. But for me, it's not quite there for me. Maybe I'll spend some more time with it, and I might release another video to correct some things I said in this video. But as for me, I definitely wait for a sale or a price drop before picking it up, especially if there's some DLC coming later this year. I give this game a B. Alright, I'll stop rambling now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. Comment down below more Samurai Shodown videos, then go ahead and write a comment down below and let me know. I'll do it. Alright, see you guys next time.
勝者静か御前。憎い。